What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. Now that the channel is almost at 3,000 subscribers, or maybe it's already at 3,000 subscribers by the time this video airs, should we celebrate in any way? Is it worth celebrating every single time we get like a major milestone? I mean, I think at some point we should celebrate. Maybe I should do like a celebration hat every now and then or something. Celebrate the big milestones of the channel every now and then. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and while you answer that, I'll get to some first RPG horror stories for today. DM deliberately TPK's party to show off his special homebrew monster. I play and DM occasionally on a large West March style server with multiple DMs. Last night, I had my first ever truly terrible DM. Everyone in the server is different levels, and games are usually aimed at a specific tier, although you can temporarily level your character down if you want to. He posted the game for the characters of level 8 to 10, and had several of us who are higher level drop down to 10. It's categorized as medium to hard. I don't have the stat block, but at medium, his little homebrew would have needed much higher level characters for the party to even stand a chance. From what I gather from the encounter, it was immune to all damage except fire, healed from cold damage, and non-magical damage was automatically reflected back to whoever dealt it, had multiple reactions around, melee attacks from it did on average 40 points of radiant damage, legendary actions were AoEs that did between 40 to 70 points of damage in a 120-foot radius. The save against the AoE was dexterity, either 20 or 21. Was immune to prone and incapacitated at minimum. Could automatically choose to reflect those spells back to the caster, again no save needed. AC of 23. He could teleport farther than anyone could run multiple times around, so running away wasn't even possible. Edited because, oh yeah, also forgot it had a tremor sense of 120 feet. This thing sounds like a monster and absolutely ridiculous. Okay, listen, if you want to have such an overpowered thing, leave it to the higher levels to deal with it. This thing sounds ridiculous. If it can just reflect all damage, then dealing fire damage to it doesn't even matter, doesn't make sense. Cast Firebolt, Scorching Ray, Burning Hands, it just reflects it back on you, so there's no point of even doing damage with this thing. You might as well just roll performance to pretend you're dead. That's the only thing you can do. Roll performance to pretend you're dead and hope your performance score is good enough to trick it, and that's it. And then wait for it to leave, and then you can walk away. This thing sounds way too overpowered. For level 10s too. For any level, if you can just reflect all spells, it doesn't matter. You need Wish. Can it reflect Wish? Can it reflect Wish? Worse, whenever someone came up with a clever solution like the Iron Bands of Belaro, he declared it was immune to them. The very obvious rock pillar on the map? Oh, we misinterpreted that. There's no cover there, and it's not a pillar. The huge boulder on the map? Well, my small-sized character can get into cover behind it. She's bigger than the boulder. What the hell? I finally decided enough was enough. Called him out on running a blatantly unbalanced fight, and bounced from the chat. I also messaged the server moderator. Apparently he tried to claim the stat block was only CR 12. Whatever CR you have, it doesn't matter. Not only do you have immunity to all damage except fire, I have all this stuff here on the side. You can heal from cold damage. Any non-magical damage was automatically reflected back. Could automatically choose to reflect all spells back onto the caster anytime you want. Had multiple reactions around. Legendary actions of AoE between 40 and 70 points of damage in a 120-foot radius. You can't escape that. Save against the AoE was dexterity, either 20 or 21, so good luck unless you're playing a rogue at that point. And it could teleport as well. It has tremor sounds of 120 feet. What is this thing, dude? No matter what CR you give it, this thing is just way too unbalanced. For what? This is just to be like, oh, look at me, look at my cool beast, you know, you look how cool it is. I'm gonna show it off how cool it is by TPKing the entire party, guys. It's so cool. Only if you guys were better enough to be able to defeat this my grand beast. It's just as cringe as whenever the DM just tries to force the DMPC to be the most special thing ever. But instead it's the monster that's gonna just murder the entire party. Now the entire party is dead. Nobody can have fun, because you would just really want to show off your cool monster. Honestly, if you wanted to make it a fair fight, take away like all but 2 of those traits. Leave the AC high, leave the teleportation, that's fine as well. Leave the melee attack, take away the AoE nonsense, take away the ability to reflect non-magical spells and just spells in general. Take that nonsense away, and maybe at that point you can have something that's competently balanced. Immunity to everything, that's stupid. Put it as like at least a resistance, man. At least a resistance. And then make it blatantly obvious that you can actually hurt with fire. Or make it vulnerable to fire so the party has actual way to counter this thing. I don't know, man. I'm sorry y'all dealt with this. For real. This sucks, dude. A nonsensical player causes more problems than I can handle. In a desire to play D&D with an older rule set, I created an advertisement on Roll20 and RLFG and collected many amazing folks and one problem player I'll call Paul. Paul didn't last to see session 1 despite a muttering of my patience and a philosophy that everyone can play. Paul didn't last to see session 1 despite a mustering of my patience and a philosophy that everyone can play. I had set our first monthly session just after the new year. This gave us about a month and a half to get to know each other over a Discord server I had set up. This was my second tabletop RPG Discord server, so by this time I knew what I was doing. I had a general channel and also ones for character building, the setting, rules, Roll20, and a few role-playing channels. Each person also had their own private channel with the DM, me. Now, I'm a computer scientist. Every channel was well named and descriptions of the channel filled in. I even posted and pinned a guide on channel usage, being clear on some in-character and out-of-character channels. And it was good, and well followed by everyone except Paul. But once every few days, I would wake up to find half my channels lit up with new messages, all from Paul. At best, these were difficult to understand to almost nonsensical. Often there would be pictures of Paul or a view outside of his window. Sometimes he left voice messages in and out of character. A few times, linked to random songs would be posted. I privately explained the channel's purpose and Paul said he understood, but a few days later, nothing changed as another spam attack hit us. I went specific on about explaining what I was looking for, and that caused a very odd change in behavior. For example, in strategy channel, he'll post whatever random thing he wanted, but awkward included the word strategy somewhere in the message. I see the problem. And yeah, if you like ping at everyone and just put like strategy next to the nonsense you're posting, it's not strategic, it's not about strategy. First I was thinking maybe the DM was going a little bit too control freak with the thing, but it's fine to have a Discord server that is organized. And it's a bit of a problem when somebody just goes at everyone and spam a bunch of nonsense on every single channel at everyone. I could see how that could become a major problem and a nuisance, for sure. This was the underlying constant frustration in working with the player, but there were other strange issues. Constant posting the season and year, constantly tagging people in messages, had so much confusion and question about time zones, which both Roll20 and Discord mitigated automatically that he missed session 0. In-character roleplay by post, often stepping out of player's domain in the DM area. I've written to the king and he had responded with gifts, impossibly higher rolled stats, background with ridiculous aspects, recruited people to join without asking. This was problematic because the table was full. My theory, actually, if he's doing all that, is probably doesn't know what D&D is, and maybe he's like a young kid or something. Maybe it's a young kid that just thinks it's like some sort of like a roleplay group or something, and maybe they just don't understand the rules behind D&D and the purpose behind D&D, so they're just kind of doing whatever. Are they a kid? It kind of come off a little bit, just a little bit juvenile, just a little bit. Maybe I'm assuming, but it does come off as somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't know what they're part of. They're just happy to be part of the experience and just doing whatever, I guess. I realized I was spending more time managing this player than I was preparing to deliver fun for the rest of the group. At this point, I try to do the adult thing and spell it out for him. I need you to use clear and appropriate communications, follow rules and guidelines, keep to your side of player and DM lines, and help keep the shared fiction instead of wrecking it. This led to a long, confusing, bizarre discussion that I will not post here. Eventually only saw this as discrimination by me of his country he was from and nothing else. There was nothing he could work on or better fit with the group at all. When he posted that he was done being patient with me, I concluded I felt the same way and removed him from the game. I did not do this lightly. The remaining group members are awesome and we enjoy a lively play by post along with one live virtual session that couldn't have gone better. Epilogue. I heard through others from some of the same groups wherein that he started a Discord at Roll20 VTT of my same name and used my session 0 mini scenario almost word for word. Ironically, the person he recruited turned out to be a great guy and eventually took Paul's place, so that worked out. Edit. There was no language barrier, we both only spoke English. He was about the age of the group, which was about 40 to 55 years old. Post examples. I will be wandering, mostly interacting after battles for initiative purposes and using my knowledge skill most of all. Whereas my character, his character's name in mechanics, read and understand OP name, in the meantime at starting town, is where I will meet the other players for session 1. I choose to sit out session 0 to build adventure and character. Okay, well, I don't know what's going on. Maybe Paul might be on a spectrum or something. There's definitely a missing part of the communication here. Clearly, they're talking about two separate different games. They're playing different games that talk about two different things. Paul is talking about thing A, DM is talking about thing Z. There's just a huge delineation here. I think Paul Paul is just looking for a whole different experience, or maybe misunderstood the entire point of what the server is about. Or maybe there was a massive language difference or something. I don't know. There's clearly some sort of a difference between what the DM wanted and what Paul wanted. But you guys are separated now, so good luck to Paul with whatever they're doing, and good luck to OP for whatever their games they're running right now. Good luck to you, OP, and good luck to Paul for whatever Paul wants to run. That's what I say. I think there's just a broad miscommunication of what both parties wanted. DM clearly wants one thing, Paul wants another thing entirely. Player thinks I'm sexist for character dying. Hello, it's me again, back at it with another horror story. So I'd run a game where the players were prisoners sent into a Shadowfell-like world to be banished. The characters were supposed to be deeply flawed people who may or may not change their ways, and may or may not be good or evil. The idea being that, like with any system, false convictions happen and you may be a good person. One thing I told my players in session 0 and 0.5 is that combat in this campaign is a tool to be used carefully and cautiously. Most encounters are built with many ways to avoid it, and taking it on is always an option, albeit often the wrong option. So unless they're very confident or have formed a plan to never engage in combat with a creature of this dimension. Things start off with a tiny red flag during the character creation. She played Monk, who was flawless when the campaign required you to have at least one major flaw, with more flaws giving you a reward for RPing them in-game. She built her character to be ultra noble, all about the greater good, and doing the right thing, and just generally being heroic. I allowed it because I thought that's whether by choice or accident that was an amazing major flaw for a character. She didn't list that as a flaw and left the flaw area empty. Could be a flaw, but if they're not recognizing it as a flaw, that means they're not aware of that and they're not really self-aware of their character. It could just be they're making like a perfect character, a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu or something like that. Character flaws are pretty important, especially if you have some sort of a twist to it. Like Morrow has a character flaw. He's stupid. He's really dumb. He understands the risk assessment, but he's not great at it. He's more likely to accept a death run for a coin because it's just, hey, they're paying us money. He's not great at thinking things, but he has a decent memory. If he knows that bad situation is a bad situation, he's not gonna go there. But if he doesn't know the situation, yeah, a few coin wouldn't hurt. Sure, I'll do that thing. Go down to the pit of hell? Sounds kind of tough, but you know, for 1,000 gold, I might do it. Flaws are really fun to play out in character. They're super fun, and they add so much more to your character than just your goals and ambitions and how your character talks and speaks. Flaws are an important part of character creation and character progression. Lean into the flaws and have your character go through character development to become more self-aware or better or more in tune with stuff. Flaws are fun to have for part of character creation. It gives people from making goody-goody two-shoes that just can never do anything wrong ever at all. They're perfect and flawless all the time. I feel like flaws make the character more than their achievements or accomplishments, or their goals and ambitions. They're important, but flaws are equally as important as your goals and ambitions, you know? Fast forward a few sessions and the players are on a quest to find a shadow hag hut in a corrupted forest and recover an amulet that can be used to protect against the Shadowfell-like conditions of the dimension. When they get there, they find the hag is busy preparing people's sacrifices for a ritual. It gave the players a chance to sneak in, cause some distractions inside the hut to occupy the hag, and steal the amulet. Sounds great! The players are doing awesome. The Mission Impossible theme is playing as they narrowly manage to grab the amulet. This one the player decides that she's going back for the hostages. I loved it and gave her inspiration for role-playing her flaw. The other players argued a bit in character but ultimately told her they'll help from a distance, as at this point they were out of spells and tools to do a stealth again. She agreed and said not to worry, she has a plan. Her plan? She walked out in the open and challenged the Shadow Hag. Asked her twice if she was sure. Once as a narrator, you consider it might be dangerous to do. Are you sure? And another as a GM, just to clear the air. Shadow hags are extremely dangerous, CR 13. Are you sure you wish to challenge them in the lair? Both were met with confirmation by the player. So they challenged the Shadow Hag. She got Finger of Death cast on her and died instantly. Okay, aside from the commentary, I almost read that as if she got fingered to death. I guess she kinda did. If you have Finger of Death cast on you, I guess you did get fingered to death. But either way, if your DM is saying, hey, you're kind of tough, are you sure you want to do it? Not even just once, but twice. Your DM is saying twice, are you sure you want to do that? That's a sign that you probably should rethink your decision and reconsider your actions, because the DM is giving you a bone, not even one, but 2 bones. The DM is being very generous with that one. They letting you rethink your actions very carefully, and I don't know what the player's ignoring it. Is it hubris? Is it the thing that your character is just invincible, can do everything they possibly can without any sort of consequences? I don't know. The player went silent, and while I described her death and went to do my normal PC died what's next talk, the player broke down and started insulting me, calling me sexist for a character dying. Apparently, I didn't want to see women succeed in my game because why would the hag have such a powerful spell? CR 13? That's really high. I mean, it depends on the party size and if they're able to handle it. Some enemies, especially on different planes of existence, are gonna have some insane abilities, some insane spells. And the DM asked you twice, not once but twice, are you sure you want to do that? CR 13. That CR number kinda matters. She also said that I wanted to humiliate her because I narrated that her character dies and turns into a zombie. I explained that neither were true. Other women in the game were not dead, and my feminine presenting NPCs often hold positions of power. I also had no intention to humiliate her. I described her death very briefly and reminded her we have a safety card system she could use to make me stop and skip anything uncomfortable at any time. In the end, she wouldn't listen to me. She ended up leaving, which I was disappointed with, and I apologized to her for it not working out. Asking for feedback and thought that was that. It wasn't. She harassed the two women still in my group, and when they mentioned she was crossing the line, she called them awful names and leaped over the line by saying to the trans woman, content warning, transphobia, she would have been mad about it if she was a real woman. Safe to say, I did not expect things to turn out this way. She was promptly added to my ban list of people I would never play with again. Whoa, dude, okay. Like, I get it, your character died, and yes, you're upset. But the DM gave you 2 warnings, not 1, but 2 warnings about the player action that you're about to do. You decided not to listen to the DM, you decided to do whatever. Actions have consequences, you have to live with that. Either roll a new character, apologize profusely to the DM and ask them to roll back and retcon the decision if you really wanted to, but no, the player decided to just throw a fit and even try to get other people involved in this thing. What are you doing, lady? What are you doing with yourself? Tangential edit. This has nothing to do with the post, but I think the way I worded the concept of the campaign has stirred up a few people, and rightfully so. I'm not very Reddit wise and honestly kind of suck at typing out what I mean sometimes. Some mental health stuff probably no one cares about. For those interested, the campaign had combat in it. Just show them the combat often has to be very carefully planned and cautious. I'm fully aware that a monk or fighter will feel like they don't belong otherwise. Prior to this, their first combat encounter was about finding hidden passages that allowed them to get an ambush from the hideout patrol, instantly invalidating about half of the enemies who only had melee attacks and had to climb all the way up. Combat still happened and did so with decent frequency, just that I considered finding ways of make combat much easier to be avoiding it. And when I mentioned in the post, taking it on, I meant like just saying screw it and just jumping in with no prep. The latter of which I mentioned multiple times to be completely bad idea, often resulting in PC death or TPK. I told them there'll always be ways to avoid the encounter or make it easier on yourself. Sorry for the confusion, and I understand the frustration of thinking I use D&D, a system literally originally built and based around war games and still combat focused today, to run a no combat campaign. It was just a mistake by me not conveying information correctly. I deeply apologize. Combat in D&D is fun, but adding ways to kind of circumvent combat or make it so that you have to really plan it out to get the most advantage on combat for yourself, that's actually not a bad idea. There are encounters out there that you can build around, not specifically only around combat, and finding ways to circumvent situations, like maybe talking your way out of things, like, you know, playing deceitful games or doing a quest for BBG or something to try to get something out of them, or whatever, what have you. There's nothing wrong with adding a way to just like plan out combat or just say gung-ho, we'll just fight as it is. And there's nothing wrong about making your players think about the decisions they're doing and be able to plan out ambushes and stuff like that, getting the upper hand. In fact, I think you should be encouraging that sort of thing, because the team's working together in order to get the upper hand on a really tough enemy or group of enemies in order to turn it into something fun. But finding other ways outside of combat and only combat progression is also fine too. I don't think that's a problem in the slightest. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.